Well, this is Mike Oitzmant. I'm here at the 2024 Robotics Summit and Expo in Boston, and excited to have with me today Jonathan Hurst. He's the Chief Robotics Officer at Agility Robotics.
Yep.
Jonathan, super excited to have you here today.
Yep.
And look, we're getting ready to celebrate the Aubriard 50 with the gala tonight, and super excited to have you guys as the Robot of the Year Digit. It was a difficult decision, but not so difficult given what you guys have accomplished. So congratulations.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. And so we're very excited about it too, because boy, there's some competition, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's been a big year for Agility, getting the robots out there deployed. I think that Digit is the first time that any humanoid robot has gone out to do something useful for a customer, that, a paying customer, doing some real useful work. So we're really excited about that. Of course, there's a huge team of people behind that, right? All of the service of the robots and, the product team, and of course the engineering team and the go-to-market team. There's so many people really working so hard to make this happen. So that's great. And then the other thing that's great about all of this is you guys are one of the very, very few that are actually informed about robotics and technology. And, so for that reason, we're really excited. It means a lot. This means a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you and members of your team, the Agility team here as well. So thanks for representing. Mm-hmm. And when we get on stage tonight and congratulate you guys, I think it's going to be a celebration, as you said, of the year. In terms of robotics, the humanoids seem to be the topic of the last year. You guys are in the front of a large pack of competitors who are also here, and I sort of describe it as sort of a Cambrian explosion of humanoid robots. Why do you think now is the time for humanoids to find their moment?
It's a good question. Look, having robots in our spaces that work for us, work with us, it's been just a human dream forever. Mm-hmm. Everybody's wanted this forever. So it's just that for a long time, the perception has been that it's in a distant future and we can't get there yet. And, so we're seeing some, inklings. We see stuff from, academia demos, and we see, some of the Boston Dynamics demos, and then Agility Robotics, we've been in it for a long time.
Right.
I started my career doing this in grad school, and Boston Dynamics already existed then, even when I, started in Leg Lab. But Agility is the first to show that there is a commercial path.
Yeah.
Right. And we also have seen, there's that the exit Boston Dynamics was sold. And so people are starting to recognize that it's not distant future. Mm-hmm. There's very clear want and need for this. The market is huge. It's one of those rare opportunities where the market is practically infinite. It's some significant portion of GDP. And it's just, can you do it?
Right.
And what are the first things you can do? And now everybody can see, yes, you can do it. And yes, here's some of the first use cases where, a company's been out there doing it. So everybody wants to get in and do that now. It's exciting. I don't think there are that many technologies that are like that.
It's
maybe like the airplane.
Yeah.
Right. Where everybody was so excited about wanting to fly. I expect there was a very similar proliferation of companies that were doing flying, airplanes, and
trying to fly
early on. That's
try
right.
to get off the ground.
That's right.
Yeah. So with that metaphor of trying to get off the ground, what is it in the last couple of years that have really made this possible now, this point in time in the history of sort of industrial robots and mobile robots over the last decade? You sort of talked about that on your keynote this morning. The 2000s, the decade of mobile robots, but why now is the 20s the year of potentially humanoid robots?
So, I was talking about how we had mobile robots, but you still have to design the environment for them. Yeah. And now we're getting to the point where robots can go where people go. And there's a lot of things converging to make that possible. One of the things is the basic science of locomotion and mobility. Up until a few years ago, there was only a couple of groups, like maybe 2 or maybe 3, who'd, shown walking outdoors and over terrain and being able to handle stairs in a robust way.
Yeah.
But it's starting to become more possible to do that. And then the other thing is, all of the sensors, all the power electronics, all the motors, all of the kinds of pieces that it takes to put together a system that's this complex, are starting to be things like at this conference. You can see all these suppliers. I mean, this conference is a lot bigger than it was a few years ago.
Right.
A lot bigger.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a few years back, there weren't a whole lot of vendors. And there's so many more vendors available now. It's easier to build systems like this.
Yeah.
And then finally, everybody can see AI coming down the pipeline. Everybody can see, you know, this marriage of a robot that's physically intelligent and can walk and can manipulate with what should it do? You know, how does it even interpret what's in the room and decide where to go and what to do? Suddenly, that's almost a commodity. You know, we can use a large language model from any one of these different sources, and it works to just plug into the robot and have it do things. So everybody sees that on the horizon now. That's why everybody's jumping in.
Yeah, and I think that's what's been fun from where I sit.
Yeah.
To watch all of the everybody that's in it at the moment is trying to one up each other, and I'm guilty of sort of egging that on a little bit. But it's also fun to watch the reactions as to how quickly people are coming up with ideas and actually implementing those ideas. The reality of some of those is still to be questioned, but the point is they're actually thinking about and executing on some interesting concepts. You guys have talked about this. We did this on the stage at Robo Business Pros, talked about the idea of using the connection to a large language model.
Right.
And that's been done by multiple companies now. But the thing that I'm curious and what I want to draw you, what's the next step of evolution from large language models to this concept of like large behavioral models that can take not just the text concepts that LLMs give us, but now we get into the real robotics controls that those of us that are in the industry want to see happen.
I mean, that's a great question, because when you think of a large language model, it's kind of a one-dimensional text thing where we have data from the entire internet to give us like practically every combination of words that makes a reasonable sentence, you know? And so if you've got that complete coverage, then that's something you can just turn into a large model. But for all of the specific compliance behavior and force control behavior and all of the things that a robot needs to do in order to be really dexterously manipulating an object or locomoting in the environment, or the combination, the loco manipulation together, we have no source of data for that. So there's a lot of tools that are kind of have been demonstrated, and the ideas and papers, you know, from maybe 10 years ago or that long ago, but people are starting to discover them and starting to recognize the promise of some of these things. And now everybody is trying everything. So the way we see it, at the low level for the control of the robot, you have to do that in a simulation because there's no source of data for it. And you need to kind of explore the unique dynamics of the robot. And so that's a great place for like reinforcement learning models and things like that.
Right.
But if you're, you know, trying to decide what to do in a room, you're never going to get at that from ground truth. You know, you're going to have to use data and human context in order to know what to do with that. And so that's where something like a large language model. And then there's this middle ground where, you know, we probably need a ton of training data, maybe from our learned models, maybe from our model-based, you know, control models, and all that sort of thing, to then create some sort of diffusion-based policy that's kind of like a planner. Yeah. You know, this gray area in the middle. So there's a lot of different groups have a lot of different convictions and things that they're trying. And we have ours. Yeah. And, you know, we're going to see a lot of really interesting progress over the next few years.
And it's mind-boggling. I've watched several videos online from some of the PhD students who are looking at the diffusion policies and just amazed that things work with limited amounts of data. This whole question of how much data is appropriate. Yeah. And I think it's just mind-blowing. We would never have thought this a year or two ago that we would be where we are.
No, I thought when we started Agility Robotics, we're starting on the physical intelligence, make the robot walk and then manipulate. And I figured it was going to be decades to understand like how to go unscrew a light bulb. There's a lot of information there. Well, no, it turns out language models now give us all that information. That intelligence is, again, it's almost a commodity. Yeah. So we're in this like gold rush. Yeah. Right? Where everybody knows there's a huge amount of value here in understanding this technology and applying it and figuring out the business models for the pieces of the technology. And everybody is just racing to figure out how to really deploy it and apply it. And you know, that's super exciting.
It is. So let's get a little practical for a minute in the sense that you guys are getting ready to open a new factory.
It's open.
It's open in Act 3. Yep. And so talk to me a little bit about how your organization has evolved in the last year to prepare for that next big step, which is a huge step for you guys to move into large-scale production.
That's right. I mean, we're really taking that turn right now to be a mature company and be ready for the stage that we're going to go into. So in terms of like the leadership team at the company being really focused and experienced in business and manufacturing, all of those things. And then the factory, we've got a pretty big space, like 70,000 square feet. And all of our fabrications, mostly like final assembly, right? But that means we can do all the testing in-house and we can do all the quality control in-house. And some of the things that we design and build on our own, like some of our transmissions, it's kind of like to keep that intellectual property in-house, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's part of having a factory like that. And the factory setup right now, there's a lot of open space. There's a big roller skating rink in there, right? And then there's one line, and it's a set of, workbenches where robots can get assembled. And as we start to ramp up, you can copy that line, I think, 7 or 8 times.
So, wow, it's going to be amazing to watch your growth.
And of course, we will have Digit robots participating in the manufacturing of Digit robots, part of the logistics path in our warehouse.
That's believe me, that we're all looking forward to that opportunity. Great. So as I let you go, and you're still a professor.
I am.
You're still active teaching.
I'm not active right now teaching. That's my current status anyway. I'm on leave of absence. I'm still affiliated with the university, and right now this year, I'm really focusing on my role at the company, a chief robot officer, and the innovation line and where to do that best. And right now, that's at Agility.
Yeah.
So
what I wanted to ask you, for anyone listening, any of the students that are listening, trying to make a decision about what to do with their career path, to invest their time in a master's or a PhD versus getting into industry with all the excitement going on, what would you give one of your potential students if they're trying to select you as an advisor?
The advice I would give is if you're thinking about a master's versus a PhD, if you want to do research, especially if you want to be a professor, obviously you need a PhD.
Yeah.
If you want to be building robots, you don't need a PhD.
Yeah.
Especially now. You can do it with a master's. That's a really good idea. You don't even need a master's. You can just get into it. This is one of those hot topics and hot areas where if you know how to do it, and if you're good at it, and if you've practiced at it, you're going to find a career path. And then the advice I would give is find the thing that you want, like in 10 years, in 20 years, what is it that you want? What's the thing that's most exciting to you that makes you feel excited about coming into work or school or whatever it is you're doing? And focus on that, because that's kind of a hint at what your talents are and a hint at where you're going to be able to become among the best at something. And there's such a breadth of things to do in robotics. I think that's a really great way to not have to think too hard about it, not have to try and predict what's going to be the best in 5 years, because nobody can do that. Yeah. But to be good at something that you really, really like and are good at.
And I think, again, there's so many opportunities in the industry that getting out, if you're not sure, get out and do something. You can always come back and come back to school.
I will say it's hard to come back to school.
Is it?
There's a whole set of soft skills that you lose pretty quickly once you leave school. And there's a whole set of dollars that you lose when you come back to school, and lifestyle change. In my experience, it's hard for people to come back. You can. They'll welcome you. You can do it. But I think it's good to go get a master's with an advisor, doing some specific research stuff that really kind of gets you down a specialty path. You're well set for a liftoff then into an industry path from there.
Great. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. Congratulations to you and everybody at the team. So take that back from us, and we're looking forward to celebrating your success and following your future success going forward.
Excellent.
So thanks for joining us here this year at the show.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
It's great.